In this week's edition, New South Wales finally reveals its sponsorship requirements, housing tradies can relax, they will make it into the core skilled occupation list, ANZSCO is soon to be replaced, and of course there is still fighting about the student visa cap legislation. Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to this week's edition of Australian Immigration News. If it's moving and shaking in the world of migration, we will track it down for you and shed some light on it. The New South Wales Government finally released its requirements for the 190 and 491 sponsorship on Thursday morning. Everyone who subscribes to their newsletters received this email from Investment New South Wales. Of particular interest is this part about employment experience and the fact that there is no reference to deeming dates anymore. It states, "We have simplified our approach to skilled employment, removing previous restrictions on what employment can be claimed in your EOI. New South Wales now adopts a Home Affairs definition of skilled employment." Finally, they follow the department's policy guidelines after years of refusing applicants over deeming date issues. Talk about leading a horse to water.
Drink the water.
Oh my God.
You can't make me.
Bro.
You can't make me.
Why?
Do I need to say it in horse, bro? Nay, I'm not doing that shit, bro.
Oh my God.
No.
We covered this issue about claiming work experience and deeming dates in a recent video, and if you missed it, we'll leave a link at the end of this one. The new occupation lists have been released for the 190 and 491 visas, and this occurred with some drama initially as New South Wales seemed to not add one of the most important unit group occupations. So we quickly emailed Investment New South Wales with a media inquiry at 10:38 a.m. in which we said, "We seek a media comment on why the unit group 3312 carpenters and joiners were not included in the New South Wales skills lists released this morning. Most members of the Australian public would think that given the demand for housing, this is a very unusual omission. What was the decision-making process for making such a decision? We are seeking media comments from other professional building associations on this issue for this weekend's edition of Australian Immigration News." Well, what would have to rate as the quickest media response in history, we received this email from the New South Wales Government in just 22 minutes.
That was fast.
"Dear Karl, thank you for your email. The unit group 3312 carpenters and joiners is most definitely a priority for the New South Wales Government. There was a problem with the upload of the list which has now been rectified. Apologies for the confusion. Please see the New South Wales skills lists." I wanted to be diplomatic, so I didn't write back with what I was thinking. What other occupations did they forget to put on? Unfortunately, I'm guessing that it wasn't the case with accountants, actuaries, and many other occupations that didn't make it to the new lists, which are about 70 occupations. The only positive thing to say about these lists is that they are so short, it does give some hope to the people who are fortunate enough to be on them a higher chance of receiving an invitation. And as luck would have it, by 4 p.m. on the same day, we received our first 190 invitation, an offshore food technologist with 85 points.
Fuck me, that was fast.
Overall, the residency requirement of 6 months of living in New South Wales for the 190 visa remains the same if you're living in Australia, and of course your occupation is on the list. For those offshore, you must have been outside of Australia for at least 6 months to qualify. In both cases, however, you cannot apply directly to New South Wales. You simply create your expression of interest and hope they will invite you. There are 3 pathways to New South Wales nomination for the 491 visa. In Pathway 1, you can apply if you're currently employed in your nominated occupation or closely related occupation that's on the list for a regional New South Wales business for at least 6 months, and you must be paid the TSMT at the time of application. For Pathway 2, you must be invited to apply by Investment New South Wales by having an expression of interest on the system. However, the chances of receiving the invitation will be so small that New South Wales says you should seek other alternatives. For Pathway 3, you can apply if you recently graduated with a bachelor or higher qualification from a regional New South Wales institution within the last 2 years. Your occupation must be on the list and be able to claim the regional study points. And if you are onshore, you have resided in New South Wales for the last 3 months, or if you are offshore outside of Australia for the last 3 months. For Pathways 1 and 3, you can apply directly to New South Wales. You do not need to be invited. On Monday this week, the Immigration Minister Tony Burke was actually spotted in action. Well, maybe not in the popular media networks, but he was discovered answering some migration-related inquiries during parliamentary question time. He made it clear that the trades necessary to build houses in Australia would most definitely make it onto the core skilled occupation list to be used in the upcoming Skills in Demand visa. This is despite the fact that virtually no housing trade occupation made it onto the Confident On draft CSOL. Most of you will remember all the building trades were actually on the targeted for consultation list, the maybe list, much to everyone's amazement. However, now we can feel reassured that it is almost certain that all building trades will make it onto the final list.
The core skills pathway, though, does include trades if they are listed on the core skills occupation list. And I'll be making decisions on the core skills occupation list soon. The draft list that was put out, which I can refer to because that was put out as draft list and is public, did include the various occupations: electricians, carpenters and joiners, plumbers, roof tilers. Making sure that we have enough people to be able to build homes is a critical role of the immigration system. And the member for Curtin is right when the member for Curtin says we haven't been able to get the number of people who industry want to be able to get at the moment. That's true. It's also true that last year the number of skilled construction workers who were granted visas was 10,000, and that was the highest number in a decade. So in terms of the government trying to turn the system around to respond to the crisis, in making sure that we've got enough workers in construction, that is being done. There is a big public interest right now in making sure that we do get people we need to build the houses that we need, and the government agrees with that, and the core skills pathway should be able to deliver that.
Clearly, the federal government's number one priority is building houses, and the immigration program seems to be working hard to make this happen. However, if tradies are a priority, why isn't Direction 109 in place yet? I'm tired of saying that, so we will push for an answer in this coming week. The well-known ANZSCO, Australian New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupations, which we have used in immigration law for nearly 2 decades, is going to fade into history. Australia and New Zealand will finally go their own way regarding occupation lists. On the 6th of December, Australia will get OSCA, the Occupation Standard Classifications for Australia. New Zealand will get its own version on the 20th of November. So when will OSCA start being used by the Immigration Department? Its first role may be in the new Skills in Demand visa, which is meant to start in November, but it could be delayed in time to coincide with OSCA. As always, we will keep you posted. We'll leave a link in the description so you can read more about OSCA at your leisure.
Jobs here in the country, but it also does something.
You shall not pass!
Whether this student visa cap legislation bill will pass depends upon which news media outlet you read. SBS News, the bill is set to pass, but only with conditions set by the Greens Party, and of course that means that unless the Liberals get behind it, it is dead in the water. Considering the Liberal Opposition Party has opposed just about every bill the Labor Party has introduced into Parliament, it has more than a fair chance of failing. The Liberals say they support a student cap in principle, but that is like saying they support an increased housing supply. They have opposed the Labor Party's $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund for well over a year now. In fact, in an ABC article this week, the Liberals' Shadow Education Minister Sarah Henderson says she supports international student caps, but on Wednesday slammed Labor's approach as riddled with incompetence, secrecy, unfairness and uncertainty. You can get the idea that Labor is going to have a very hard time over this bill, and they seem seem to have forgotten one of politics' fundamental principles.
The basic rule of government is never look into anything you don't have to. And never set up an inquiry unless you know in advance what its findings will be. Leave this.
The final committee report, which came out this week, was not favourable to the government. It recommended that the legislation not begin until January 2016, and by then, of course, the Liberals may be in power once more and invent their own version. By then, of course, the whole issue will be moot due to the damage the Labor Party has inflicted upon Australia's visa and education system for international students. They will be struggling even to reach pre-pandemic numbers. Change is in the air now and coming fast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any updates. And remember, if you need help, we are always here to lend a hand. You can book a time by going to our website, but if you're in a hurry for an appointment, just pick up the phone and we will try and fit you in a little earlier. As always, take care out there and I will see you next time. So bye for now.